So the interval from one string to the next is always a perfect fourth, except for the G to B string. That's a major third. And that can really complicate things in terms of memorizing the fretboard and understanding patterns and things like that, because you're breaking up that pattern. You're introducing a new element, and then everything kind of shifts a little bit. So I've got a way that is really good for overcoming that. I got this question today from a bassist in one of our group calls who, on bass, you only have the first four strings. So, of course, it's going to be extra difficult for somebody used to that coming into playing guitar and taking guitar more seriously. So this is going to help that student and hopefully the rest of you as well. Remember, I make a lot of this content based on the suggestions and questions I get in those group calls. So if you haven't come to one yet, definitely do that. So we've got all of our intervals mapped out here in the key of C. You can do this in other keys, but it's really what we're trying to do is to understand how everything relates to each other intervallically, because that's what we're changing here. We're changing from the perfect fourth relationship to the major third relationship. So if we have a C on our E string and we go to a D, you can see, just memorize that shape and memorize that that is a major second. And then we're going to do something pretty cool in a second here, but you want to just go through all of these intervals in that manner. So second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and the octave. And you can spend some more time with that and go slowly. Don't rush through this. Just really ingrain that, okay, that's your major seven shape. And then what we're going to do is you're going to do that same thing with this C. So now starting on the G string, and we're going to get those same relationships, but they're all going to be a fret off of what they were before. So it's from the root to the second is a 2 fret spacing in this position. But when you start it on the G, everything shrinks by a fret. So it's only 1 fret instead of 2. And then our major third is right on top of each other. So this is what the fourth shape looks like in this position, right? So, and we've got our fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh root. And you can think of the note names as well, but really we were thinking intervallically right now. Both approaches are good. But anyways, the next step here is to compare each interval directly and go back and forth, right? C to D, C to D. And just get used to that. You can do it a bunch of times. And then to E. This is our fourth, and our fifth. And the sixth. Seventh, and then our octave. Okay, so now we've explored all of our diatonic intervals off of this C and this C, but we want to do it off of all the Cs, and we also want to make it more musical. We don't want this to seem like just an exercise. So let's start by doing this. So get a little rhythmic drone going. And kind of just play around with those intervals. Fifth, sixth, fifth. Play around with different ways to play the same thing. So instead of going, I can go, right? And we can also go past the octave. So now, and just always keep in mind what interval you're playing. So this is a fifth that I'm playing here, right? It's less obvious that this is a fifth than this because there's a wider, it's in another octave, right? It's a wider gap, but it's still that C to G relationship. So this is great for learning how to build chords too, because you want to know where all of your possible intervals are. So say you want to stack a third and a 7. Well, you can do that. You could do that like that. That's the obvious way to do it. But maybe you could do it like that, which it might not seem intuitive to do that because this is closer, and there may be a lot of cases where you would go to that. But what if you want another note? Sure, with this position you could put another note up here, but you can't. What if you want like a cluster? What if you want a sharp 11 down here? That's the only way to do it. So knowing where your different options are for different intervals is going to help your harmonic vocabulary as well. But you don't have to even go to chords. Just explore all the intervals off of one root, and then when you get comfortable with that, go to another one. And by the way, you can do it on the same string too. You can go. Getting good at your sliding to wider intervals. If we want the 5th. 4, 3, 4, 3. Play it in different spots. You can go below. So I'm kind of just playing with this concept now, and that's what makes this stuff stick. Because now it's not just some sort of technical exercise that is useful in theory but not in practice. I'm actually putting this stuff into practice, and you might not start as free-flowing as what I'm doing there. You might want to pick a spot, pick a C to work off of, and you could also do it the other way, where instead of picking a C to work off of and doing all of the intervals, you could pick an interval and do it that way. So you can pick a second, figure out all the different ways to play a second. Some of them are going to be a 9, which is a second plus an octave, right? And some of them are going to be maybe not the most practical to actually play. None of these are too bad. This one's a bit of a stretch, but you don't have to necessarily play them harmonically. You can do it that way. We're just trying to explore where the intervals are, and then from there you have two choices. You could either explore that same interval off of a different C and figure out, okay, I can do all of my C to D, my 1 to 2 relationship or 1 to 9 relationship off of all the different C's. That's one way to work through it. Or you could work through all the different intervals off of all of them in a row. So what I mean by that is like C to E, right? And then when I go through all of those, then I would go C to E, C to E. So there's a few different approaches you can take here, but the key is to make it engaging for yourself. And I like a combination of having it be systematic and having it be playful and improvisatory. So if this seems a little bit off the cuff, it's because I have a structure that I'm working on. But within that, if I find something that intrigues me, I run with that. So this is a way of thinking about the guitar rather than a specific set of exercises. Anytime I give an exercise, it's more of a jumping off point. And then from there, you just explore. And that's how I practice. That's how I find that I improve the most. So hopefully this was helpful for you. And yeah, you can feel free to download those diagrams and work on this stuff yourself. Peace.